The copper taste in your mouth won't go away. You've tried olive oil, crushed mint. Nothing helps. So you do what every Romang does. You reach for the jar. Not of wine, not of medicine, but of urine warm, stale, human, and you rinse because in the Roman Empire, filth wasn't filth. It was science. And the cure for bleeding gums was always someone else's waste. You're standing in the dim steam of a Roman therme. The air is thick with sweat, cedar oil, and something deeper. The layered stench of centuries. Your tunic sticks to your skin. The heat clings. The floor is slick beneath your soles, polished smooth by the bare feet of thousands. All around you, voices echo through domed marble holes. Merchants haggling in whispers. Boys laughing in Latin. Slaves scrubbing rich men's backs. You press 2 fingers to your gum. They come away red. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. Your teeth throb when you chew. Your breath has turned sour, like iron left in the rain. You know the signs. You've seen men rot from the jaw inward. It begins like this. An ache, a spot of blood, a foulness in the mouth. Then the flesh peels back, the teeth fall out, and the fever begins. You spit onto the tiled floor. It lands dark and metallic. The man beside you doesn't flinch. He's too busy scraping oil from his arms with a bronze strigil. You watch the red slide into the drains. There's no toothbrush here. No mint. No clean water to rinse your mouth. Just the little clay pot beside your towel. You reach for it. It's warm. Stale. The color of weak wine and twice as pungent. Collected days ago from chamber pots. Sometimes yours. Often others. Left to ferment in the sun because fresh urine doesn't have enough bite. You uncork it and raise it to your lips. You try not to think about it. The moment it touches your tongue, your body recoils, but you force it down. It burns. That's the point. The ammonia. The god's awful tongue. You swish it between your teeth. Hold it there. Let it bite. It feels like fire and salt dot. This is your cure you spit into the drain. They call it urine, and in Rome, it's not waste. It's product. Bleach. Cleaner. Mouthwash. You can buy it on any street corner. Collectors go door to door with vats, scraping the contents of pots and latrines. They bring it to foolers, the launderers who stomp wool in troughs of hot piss to whiten cloth. But before it goes there, some of it ends up here. In mouths like yours, you don't question the practice. No one does, even noblemen do it. Pliny the Elder wrote about it. The Celts, he said, were the best, their urine the strongest. Imported, in amphorae, bottled like olive oil. Tooth rot doesn't care if you're rich or poor. The mouth is a universal battlefield. And in this war, urine is your only weapon. You rinse a second time. The sting lingers, so does the shame. But if it saves your teeth, your jaw, your life, it's worth it. You wipe your mouth with the edge of your tunic. The taste won't leave. Not today. Maybe not ever. In that little pot. It didn't come cheap, you paid for it. When medicine smelled like death, you sit on a cracked wooden stool, staring at a wall of jars that reek of heat rot. And something unspoken, this is the office of a Roman medicus, not a physician of prestige, but a back alley healer who sees more infection than victory. The light is dim. Beeswax candles flicker against shelves stuffed with strange materials. Dried frogs, powdered ox hoof, pickled beetles, and bundles of moldy bread wrapped in linen. And then there are the flasks, glass and clay, stoppered and sealed, each one labeled with neat ink: Lusitania, Hispania, Gallia, urine, sorted by region like rare wine. You wince as the medicus lifts one to the light, a pale yellow, cloudy tint. He swirls it with practiced care, then unseals the cork and inhales. Lusitania, he says, fresh enough. The best for mouth ulcers, gentle, fortified by the Iberian sun. You nod, your gums still throb. The pain spreads to your ear when you swallow. You drink oil, chew bones, anything. But even as you nod, your stomach turns. The stench fills the room, sour and sweet like spoiled fruit. The medicus dips a bronze spatula into the liquid and gestures for you to open your mouth. He doesn't hesitate. He's done this before. You obey, it burns immediately. A metallic sting that crawls along your gums. You gag, but he presses a hand to your shoulder. Breathe, he says. It cleans the corruption, draws the bad humors out. You want to believe him, he quotes Pliny the Elder as he works. Urine, especially that left to age, is curative for ulcerations, tooth decay, wounds of the skin. He says it with reverence, like scripture. You've heard of Pliny, a learned man, one who died watching Vesuvius destroy Pompeii. If he believed in this, it must hold truth. You spit into a copper bowl. The taste lingers, the medicus prepares. A compress next. A square of moldy bread soaked in warm urine. It's placed gently against your cheek, tied with a strip of wool. For the swelling, he mutters. The mold eats the rot. The urine feeds the mold. You don't ask where it's from, but then you see it, behind the curtain, in the corner. A stone chamber pot, half full. A slave boy sits beside it, pale and listless, eyes glassy from fever. When he stirs, the medicus waves him off. Rest. Drink more barley water. He isn't here for treatment, he's the source. Not all urine is donated. Not all is gathered from latrines. Some is taken from the sick, the mad, the enslaved, believed to carry stronger properties because of the fire within them. That fire, they say, cures others. You close your mouth tightly now pain is unbearable. But shame? Shame has its own taste, and suddenly you wonder, what else did they collect without asking? When the emperor attacks your pee, you crouch beside the urine trough, nose turned away, trying not to gag. The stench rises in waves, sharp, sour, and deeply human. It clings to the skin, the breath, the folds of your tunic. You've learned to breathe through your mouth. It helps a little. This is the Phalanca, Rome's public laundry shop, and this puddle of filth. It's gold. You glance at the collector, a boy no older than 13, seated beside the trough with a tally tablet and a long stick. When someone passes, he calls out, "Give." Men stop, women too. They lift their tunics, squat, add their offering to the communal vat. Some don't even break stride. Others turn away in embarrassment, here to pay, not to contribute, not this time. Your bladder is empty. But the jar in your hand is not you bought it. A flask of someone else's waste, sealed in wax and still warm from the vendors. Stall. It costs you more than lunch, more than it should. But your laundry reeks, and the foolers won't take cloth without the proper ferment. Urine that's too weak does nothing. Urine that's too old is dangerous. The boy stabs your jar with his stick, breaks the seal, pours it into the trough. You try not to watch the ground beneath your feet. It is slick with runoff, soaked wool, oily water, and the gray froth of old piss bubbling from the basin. You look inside. A slave stomps wool between his bare legs, knees splashed with yellow foam. His face is expressionless. This is his life, the foolers say it whitens, strengthens, restores the nap of tired fabric. They say it softens leather, draws poison from wounds. They say it can save a mouth, clean a wound, bleach a toga to snow, but it cannot clean your pride. You remember the words of Emperor Vespasian, the man who first taxed urine. When his son mocked him for profiting from waste, Vespasian held up a coin and asked, "Do you smell anything?" Then he smiled. Pecunia non olet. Money doesn't stink. You've heard the phrase too many times? Painted on walls? Carved into jokes. Whispered behind backs. But for you, the stink is real. You paid for a thing your neighbor gave away for free. You paid a man to scoop filth from a street corner and hand it to you like medicine. You hold that jar like it's worth something. And here in Rome it is. Because what comes from the body can be sold. Because everything, even waste, can be measured in coins. And as the boy hands back your empty flask, you wonder, what if it was mislabeled? What if it came from a dying man? What if it wasn't even human? You turn jar in hand, cloth under arm, and head to the laundress, hoping the gods still see a difference between what cleans and what pollutes. The Phalanca, where pee became profit. You take the job because there's nothing else, not after your father died in debt. Not after your mother sold the family cart for one more loaf of barley bread. You're too small for the fields. Too weak. For the legion, but you can stomps, or they put you in a vat, knee-deep in other people's waste. The Phalonica is no palace, just an open courtyard behind a shop front, lined with sun-scorched basins. At dawn, you strip to your tunic, climb into the stone tub, and begin, cloth after cloth, tunic after tunic. You press them down with your feet, twist them between your toes, grind the stains out with nothing but rhythm and the sting of ammonia. Stench is immediate, deep, sour, clinging. It seeps into your nostrils and lodges behind your eyes. You gag at first. Everyone does. But by the second week, you stop noticing. Your lungs adjust. Your skin burns, then peels, then toughens. The pain becomes part of the job. Urine is the secret, not soap. Not ash, not vinegar. Urine, left to ferment, to ripen in the sun, mixed with clay and chalk for consistency. The ammonia breaks down grease and filth, lifts wine stains from linen, lightens wool to a senator's white. No Roman citizen would wear a toga untreated by piss. You know this because you've cleaned them. Names are stitched in some hems. Imperial crests in others. You once found a gold ring hidden in the fold of a stained robe. They beat you when you tried to keep it. Every toga that swirls beneath. Your feet is a piece of Rome itself. When you're not stomping, you're rinsing, or boiling, or laying cloth on racks to dry in the sun. Some days, you crush sulfur with stones to prepare the next mix. On feast days, the work doubles. Everyone wants to look clean when they beg the gods for mercy. They say launderers are essential to the empire, that without you. Every senator would stink, every priest would shame the altar, every bride would wear yellowed linen. They say, that foolers carry Rome's purity. You don't feel pure. You feel raw. Your eyes water constantly. Your fingernails have turned pale. The backs of your hands sting like open sores. You walk home barefoot because your sandals rotted. No one walks beside you. Not even dogs. And still, the worst part waits out at night. Your teeth ache. Your breath has gone foul. So you do what others have done before you. You dip your fingers in the rinse vat, the one used at the end of the day. When the mixture is weakest, and bring the liquid to your mouth, you rinse. You spit. You've become your own medicine. You go to sleep with clean linens and filth in your lungs. And you wonder if this is how Rome stays clean. What does filth even mean anymore? White teeth and yellow water. Your lover turns away when you speak. You see it? The twitch of the nose. The subtle lean back. The way her eyes flicker not toward your face, but away from your mouth. You smile anyway. But the smile feels different. Now, loose, sharp, painful. Your gums bleed when you chew. The molars at the back ache when you drink wine. And when you laugh, something smells, not just your breath, but something deeper. Oh, you know what's happening, so the sheet the market stall. The physician doesn't ask questions. He sees your teeth before you speak. He opens a small box and removes a thin, round flask. Fresh, local, taken just this morning. You want to ask what that means. You don't, tells you to warm it first. Let it sit in the sun. Not too long, 1 day is enough. Swish it. Hold it in your mouth. Morning and night. You nod. You've heard the whispers. You've seen the jars passed hand to hand in alleyways. You've smelled the rinse on soldiers, senators, merchants still, when you try it that night. Your throat tightens. The liquid is yellow and cloudy, warm, slightly salty. The smell rises fast, sour, and unmistakable. But the pain is worse than the shame. You tilt your head back close, your eyes, and let it coat your teeth. You gag, but you don't stop. You rinse. You spit the next morning, something's changed. The ache has dulled. The swelling is less. You lean close to the bronze mirror in your chamber, polished until it reflects like still water. You open your mouth. Your teeth gleam, not perfectly, not purely, but they're cleaner, brighter. The darkness between the gum and enamel has faded. You run your tongue along the edges, smooth, cold, alive. You do it again that night. Then again the next day, the word spreads. Now it's fashionable. At parties, ladies pass around bone powder and ash mixed with old urine, laughing behind fans as they brush each other's teeth with goose feathers. Men swish it before public speeches. The trend catches faster than plague. A smile becomes currency, but not everyone gets to choose. The best liquid, they say, comes from the young. From the strong, from the enslaved, physicians begin placing jars. Beside servant quarters, chamber pots are sold at auction. One nobleman installs a pipe to collect waste from his household slaves, bottling it before it cools. Fresher is stronger, he brags, and no one wastes what belongs to me. You hear whispers about the public baths, about children watched while they relieve themselves and the boys paid to collect it. Some do it willingly. Some are told it's for the good of Rome. You look at your teeth again. The shine remains, but the taste lingers. So does the knowledge you? Swish. You spit and wonder. Is anything still yours when even your waste can be sold? The slaves who collected it, you don't remember the name you were born with. Now they just call you vessel, because that's what you are. A walking jar, a pair of hands, a pot with legs. Your task is simple. Collect waste at dawn. You take up your basket of clay jars and walk barefoot through Rome's filth. Past butcher stalls slick with fat, past taverns that never close, past alleyways that stink of meats with wine. You follow the smell. They tell you where to go, which brothel, which bathhouse, which street corner gets the most traffic. You out quietly. You wait. The tavern owners nod. The whores don't look at you. They just point. The liquid is still warm. You carry it carefully, one pot at a time. You do not spill, not a drop. You cannot afford to. If your sandals slip on the stone, if the strap of your basket breaks, you will be beaten again. Your master keeps count of every jar returned. He sells it by the amphora. Traders come with wax-sealed scrolls and open coin purses. They inspect the product like olive oil, sniff it, swirl it, debate its age and strength. This came from a military latrine, your master boasts. Strong stuff, excellent for wool or teeth. You try not to listen, but today is different. At the bathhouse, one of the men collapses. He groans, and blood runs from his mouth. His eyes roll back, and someone screams. The guards shout, dragging the body away. The urine left behind is red-tinged. You stare at it still. Warm, still ordered, still required. You hesitate. Your master's man grabs your arm. Get it. You obey, but as you pour it into your jar, the steam carries something new, something metallic. Something wrong, you gag. Not from the smell. That's long faded. But from the thought. You're collecting sickness. You think about the amphorae stacked in the storeroom, about the jars marked fresh, about the slaves who stomp wool all day in the Phalanca, about the noble woman who rinses her mouth with this, swishing it between her perfect teeth, and you wonder, does she know? You walk the return route more slowly. Your hands ache, your shoulders sag. You want to break the jar in the gutter. You think about running. But you've seen what happens when slaves run. Their feet cut, their eyes burned, their bodies nailed to the crossroads as warning. So you keep walking, you keep collecting. Your name is Vessel now, and your back, your breath, they all belong to a trade more sacred than anyone admits. But tonight you lie awake and ask, poison passes through the body. What happens to the one who carries it? A senate divided by smell. You stand at the back of the curia, pressed between marble columns, sweating in silence. The senate is full today, not with the smell of power, but of irony. The floor, swept and oiled, glistens underfoot. Robes ripple, like sea foam as senators take their seats. Not one of them looks comfortable, because the debate today is not about borders or taxes on olive oil or the fate of the Rhine today. The Senate will argue over urine. Your master ordered you here. To watch, to listen. You are a scribe's assistant, a body with ears. No one will remember you. That's why you hear everything. The consul clears his throat. Shall we begin? A senator rises, his toga pristine, his face pinched with disgust. We are Romans. He declares, not dung beetles. Shall we truly profit from that which animals leave behind? Scattered nods. A few murmurs, another stands, fatter, red-cheeked. And yet it whitens the wool of every patrician's tunic, he says. Cleans. The teeth of every general's smile. Is it not Roman genius to turn waste into wealth? Laughter. Tension breaks, slightly, but the air thickens again when Titus, son of Emperor Vespasian, steps forward. His voice is clear, young, sharp. It is disgraceful, he says. The empire is not built on filth. My father taxes the public latrines. Like they were vineyards, he coins profit from piss. What next? A tax on spit, on sweat. The room stirs. You can feel it. The crowd waiting, holding breath, unsure whether to cheer or recoil. Then Vespasian rises. He is old, measured. He walks with the calm of someone who already knows he's right. He reaches into his purse, pulls out a single coin, and steps forward. It glints in the light, newly minted, stamped with his own face. He hands it to Titus. Smell it, he says. Titus hesitates. He looks to the senators, then to the coin, then lifts it to his nose. The silence is full. Vespasian asks again. Gently this time. Does it stink? Titus says nothing. The chamber exhales. You don't laugh. Neither does anyone else. Because beneath the cleverness, the joke has teeth. Rome's streets still run with human waste. Its laundries boil with ammonia. Its doctors prescribe fermented urine for everything from ulcers to breath. And yet the coin is clean, that is the problem. When even the gods can't agree on what is pure, when Venus blesses beauty, but Minerva endorses bleach, what hope does your mouth have? What hope does truth have? You leave the Curia that day with one question. Burned into your memory, not from the speeches, not from the tax, from the coin. If purity can be bought, was it ever real to begin with? Ancient chemistry, why it worked. You're back in the medicus shop. Though you didn't plan to return, this time, not for treatment, just errands. You carry herbs in a linen pouch, chamomile, mint, bark from a bitter tree. The assistant takes them without looking up. Then you hear it, a soft hiss, bubbling, a sharp, nose-stinging vapor fills the air. You step back instinctively, but it follows you like vinegar left in the sun too long, acidic, strange. You glance toward the back room. No curtain today. Inside, a clay pot boils over a small fire. The liquid inside is yellow, dark at the edges, frothing as it heats. The assistant fans the flame. His eyes water. He mutters to himself, barely audible. 2 days old, good strength, not cloudy. Heat releases the bite. You realize what he's doing, boiling urine. You've heard of it, yes. Foolers do the same. But you've never seen it like this. Not in a place of healing, not stirred like soup. The air in the shop shifts. What once smelled of dried herbs now stinks like chamber pots left in the August sun. You step closer. The assistant glances at you. Eyes watering, but nods. For Tusaf, he says. The stronger it smells, the better it works. He grins, revealing stained teeth. We don't call it ammonia. That word's centuries away. But the principle, still the same. You don't know what he means. But later, the medicus explains. It eats through rot, he says, as he mixes the cooled liquid with clay. Breaks down grease, kills what festers. We don't understand why, but we know. It does. And it's true. You've seen soldiers scrub wounds with it. Launderers stomp out blood from battle tunics using nothing else. Even temple cleaners use it to polish altars. Its bite stronger than soap. This isn't superstition. Not. Like leeches or cursed amulets or powders made from crushed lizards. This works. They just don't know why they call it purification. Fire from the body. Sacred heat turned liquid. But you know now it's chemical. The urine left to stand grows sharp, ferments, transforms. The gods are never mentioned when it dissolves. A stain or clears a blister. You've seen teeth grow white again. You've watched cloth, soaked yellow, dry pale as snow. Science doesn't need to explain itself to work, but it also doesn't ask permission. It doesn't weigh shame. It doesn't care if you wrinkle your nose. It doesn't pause when you swallow your pride. It just burns, cleans, changes. You walk home with a new pot of tooth salve. Same color, same stench. But this time it feels different. Not a charm, not a hope, a process. You rinse, you spit. You feel cleaner, smarter. But as the taste lingers, the shame still does too. And you wonder if truth doesn't care about dignity. Should you? Tooth decay, Roman style. You wake with pain. Again, your gums are hot and thick, swollen like bruised fruit. The ache pulses behind your eyes. When you press your tongue to your back molars, something moves, not the tooth, the flesh around. It is spit into a bowl. Blood, always blood. There is no toothbrush. No mint, no sweetwater rinse. You reach for your chew stick. A frayed twig of mastic. You rub it along your gums. It does little. You dab your finger into a pouch of crushed charcoal mixed with ash. You press it to your teeth, hoping the rough grit will scrub something clean. It doesn't, it just hurts. So you do what everyone in Rome does when pain becomes too loud. You visit the medicus. He examines your mouth with a curved bronze hook. His hands smell like vinegar and wax. It's spreading, he mutters, not yet to the bone. That word yet sends a cold breath across your spine. He gestures to his shelf. You know it's there. A flask, yellow, clouded, the same as before. You nod. No words. Just the faintest movement of your head. He dips a feather into the liquid, urine, steeped for 2 days in the sun. He brushes it gently across your gums. The sting is immediate. You want to pull away. But he holds your jaw steady. He hums as he works. Better than silver, he says. Cleaner than iron? You've heard of both. Dentists, real ones, offer silver picks, sculpted tools meant to pry loose rot from sockets. But they cost a fortune. The cheaper ones heat metal over coals until it glows red. Then they burn the tooth at the root. You've seen that done once. The screams lasted longer than the man did. So you rinse again and again. And for a time, it helps. The bleeding slows. The swelling fades. You speak without flinching. You eat without bleeding. Your breath sweetens. You feel reborn. Clean. Whole. Even proud. But then, your stomach turns a low ache, a twisting, the kind of pain that doesn't show, but never leaves. You ignore it at first. Blame bad figs. Blame oily lamb. Blame anything but the truth. But the truth is yellow and warm and still sits in a jar by your bed. You wonder, how much did you swallow? How long had the flask sat in the heat? Who was the source? No one can answer. The medicus doesn't ask those questions. He just nods when you return, hand pressed to your belly, mouth tight with dread. He offers more rinse. This time you hesitate, because now Rome smells different behind the incense. Behind oil and wine, there is something fermenting, and it lives in your teeth. You smile into the bronze mirror, your gums are pink again, your breath is clean. But your stomach whispers, how long before this cure starts killing too? The cosmetics of the dead. She died 2 days ago. You didn't know her well. Just a neighbor, older, quiet. She always nodded when you passed, but rarely spoke now. She's wrapped in linen and laid on the stone table, stiff as driftwood. Mouth slightly open, eyes sealed with wax. You're not here to grieve. You're here to help. Roman funerals are ritual, not farewell, and the dead must be made to look presentable. The women around you move with practiced hands. One grinds chalk into fine powder and mixes it with ash. Another opens a small jar of violet paste, old wine sediment, thick as clay. A third holds a shallow dish of liquid, yellow, and faintly sour. You know what it is, urine. They dab it gently onto the woman's cheeks and forehead. It clarifies, one whispers, pulls the gray from the skin. The mixture is absorbed, leaving behind a pale sheen. The chalk dries. In fine lines, smoothing the sag of death. Her lips are painted dark, the wine paste staining them as though she just drank from Bacchus's cup. The body begins to resemble something almost holy. This isn't luxury, it's tradition. Rome honors appearances in life. in politics. In death, even the poorest deserve dignity in the face. Even if it's painted on, a child enters with a thin bronze comb and a strip of linen soaked in rinse. He approaches the mouth. No one stops him. You watch as he presses the cloth inside, gently wiping teeth and gums. The smell curls up. Sharp, familiar. You feel it in your throat, but no one comments. This is normal, expected, ritualized. The dead must not look diseased. They must not offend the eyes or the nose. Even decay must be cleansed afterward. They will burn herbs beneath the bier. Place coins on her eyes. Whisper prayers to Mercury, guide of souls. But first, they will rinse, they will polish, they will paint. You remember your own mother's funeral? No rinse, no chalk. She died during a shortage. You washed her face with olive water. Her mouth was left untouched. People whispered that. She looked unfinished. You hated them for that. Now you work silently. Adjusting the shroud around the dead woman's shoulders. The cloth is clean, pressed. Her face gleams. Her mouth is closed, finally, and smells of nothing at all. You think of your own breath, your stained teeth, the jar by your bed, half full and cooling, the dead, you realize. Look better than the living, because death, at least, earns ceremony, but the poor, the sick, the forgotten. They rinse their mouths with old piss in the dark, without prayers, without praise, just the faint hope of one more day without pain. You watch the procession begin, perfumed, painted, pure, and ask yourself, if beauty is reserved for corpses, what does that make the rest of us? The tavern where they drink it, you're tired, feet blistered, tongue dry. Dusk settles like ash across the alleyways of Subura, Rome's underbelly. The streets here breathe smoke and sweat. Somewhere nearby, a rat screams. You push open. Warped wooden door inside. The popina is dark, warm, and full. Oil lamps flicker against stained walls. The air hangs with wine, meat, and something else, sharp, sour, familiar. You step carefully between stools. Eyes glance up, then return. To dice and drink? You sit, no one speaks, until a man raises his cup. To your health, he slurs, grinning. You nod and weary. His teeth are brown, his eyes too bright. He lifts the mug to his lips and gulps, not delicately, proudly. You expect wine, but the smell hits you first. Not vinegar, not spoiled. Urine. He laughs at your expression. Aged Falernian, he says, pounding the table. Straight from the source. Goats this time. Sweeter than slave kiss. He howls with delight. His friends join in, clapping him on the back. One wipes tears from his eyes. You want to leave, but the cup in your hand is already warm. You sip, cautious, bitter, salty. You feel it crawl across your tongue. You spit into the floor rushes. Laughter again. Don't be soft, someone says. It's medicine. Another adds, aphrodisiac. Makes you strong. The first man leans in. Breath heavy. Virgin goat, better than wine. You push the cup away. They keep talking. A soldier at the far table swears he cured his wounds by drinking the morning's first pass. Only your own, he explains, serious now. Foreign piss will rot you. A merchant claims a Greek doctor prescribes it for everything. Fever, plague, broken bones. Then someone whispers, only from virgins. Female, no one laughs, All look toward the corner. There in shadow sits a woman, thin, still. A cup untouched beside her. No one speaks her name. They say she doesn't talk, not since the ritual, not since the day the healer came with scrolls and coins and left with jars, sealed. Marked, sold to senators with bad skin and worse hearts. No one asks if she agreed. The man who toasted you leans close again. You're lucky, he says. We live in the future. Someday they'll bottle this stuff. Sell it in marble shops with silver labels. He grins. Call it divine. Call it Ramang. You stand, you leave the drink. Outside, night has fallen. The air smells cleaner. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, spitting again into the dust, but the taste remains. As you walk, you wonder, was it wine, goat, slave, yourself? And what of the silent woman? Was she cured or consumed? You feel the ache in your gut return, and you ask, When everything sacred is swallowed, what's left to spit out? Fire, ash, and pee. The Roman cleaning kit. You barely saw the flame. One moment, the oil pot tipped. The next, your sleeve was alight. You slapped it out with a rag. Rolled on the floor, but too late. The skin along your arm peels like wet bark. Red and blistered, they drag you to the vicus medicus, the neighborhood healer. He doesn't ask how it happened. He's seen worse. Soldiers from the frontier. Slaves from the kitchens. Children from lamp fires. He waves you to the back. The tools are already laid out. A bronze pan of cooled ash, a flask of sour-smelling liquid, and a long iron rod resting in hot coals. He begins without ceremony. First, he sprinkles the ash. It clings to the wound like dust to sweat. You flinch. The burn hisses. Then he lifts the jar, urine, warm, sharp. The moment it hits your skin, the pain explodes, not heat, something deeper. It burns in a way that makes you doubt your own body. You scream. He doesn't stop. The ash foams, mixing with the liquid, soaking into raw flesh. The medic nods, murmuring something about drawing out poison. Closing the skin, purifying the blood. He speaks like a priest. Then comes the iron. You barely register this here. The skin was already gone. It's a smell that stays. Charred meat, old piss, and dust. You retch as the medic presses the hot metal across the worst of it, sealing the edge. He binds your arm in wool strips. No ointment, just pressure. You lie still on the stone floor for a long time, breathing through the cloth clamped between your teeth. It worked. The wound doesn't fester. The fever doesn't come. By the next day, you can flex your fingers again. It's ugly, yes, red, bubbled, angry, but alive. The Roman Trinity, fire, ash, and urine, crude, brutal, but it saves you. Then the boy comes in. You don't know him. Younger, a cook's apprentice, maybe burned worse than you. His whole arm, his cheek, the skin blackened. The medic goes to work. Same ash, same rinse. But when the urine hits, the boy jerks, sees his eyes. Roll back, he lets out one long scream and doesn't scream again. The room goes quiet. The medic doesn't flinch. Just wipes his hands and turns to clean the iron. Sometimes, he mutters. The infection's faster. You sit there, wrapped in wool, arm throbbing, watching the boy's body still steaming. You survived. He didn't. Same fire, same kit, same cure. That's the truth. Rome doesn't write on tablets. These tools don't heal. They gamble. Sometimes they clean. Sometimes they kill. And as the stink rises of ash, of flesh, of sacred, rinse gone sour. Yes, when medicine burns and bites and blinds, how do you know it ever helped at all? Steamed alive in the bathhouse. You've been here before. The Thermi, Rome's temple of sweat and steam. Once it felt like healing, warm water, oiled skin. The smell of citrus, of cedar, of strangers laughing in mist. But not today. Today. The steam smells sharp, acrid, wrong. A new physician has taken over the baths. He calls it fumigation therapy. Not just soaking cleansing. He's sealed the hot room, rerouted pipes, and begun releasing something else into the air. Urine, not. From jars, not dabbed with cloth. This is different. It rises from beneath the floor, poured by slaves into iron braziers, boiled and forced through narrow channels. It hisses as it escapes. You smell it before you feel it. Your eyes water, your throat closes, you taste rust, but you stay because your lungs hurt, because you've been coughing blood, because nothing else has worked. You lie against the warm stone wall, chest heavy, head light, breathing the vapor. You try to believe. It burns beside you. An old man wheezes. His skin is gray. He clutches a rag to his face, but it soaks through. The woman near him doesn't move. Her body slumps. Shoulders sliding down tiles, slick with sweat and bile. You close your eyes. The physician's voice echoes outside the chamber. Breathe deep. Purge the humors. Cleanse the inner fire. You cough hard. A red thread plashes the floor. You think about your daughter, her small lungs, how she slept curled beside you last night. Hand on your ribs. listening to the rattle in your chest. She begged you not to come today, but you came. You came because you want to see her next month, next year. You came because this is Rome. Because this is medicine. Then you hear it, a thud. The old man is on the floor, convulsing. Someone screams. Another tries the door. It doesn't open. Locked. For purity, they said. To keep the steam inside, you crawl. The woman beside you no longer breathes. Her mouth hangs open. Her eyes boil. You reach the drain, a small grate near the floor. Meant to carry sweat and waste down into the sewer. It's warm, but not hot. You lie flat, press your face to it, draw a single breath of cool air. It's enough. You scream until someone hears. The door is opened, not quickly, not kindly, but it's opened. They carry out 5 bodies. You are not one of them. You walk home that night, wrapped in soaked linen. The stink clings to your skin, to your tongue, but your chest is clearer. The bleeding stops. They call you lucky, but you don't feel lucky. Because when they asked who should be pulled out first, you pointed. You chose. You picked yourself. You never forget the woman's face or the sound of her breath stopping. And now you ask, if healing means stepping over corpses, what sickness have you caught inside? The charms and curses of liquid gold. It begins with a spit. 3 times, quick hissing, pointed at your door. Then the jar, small, crude, no lid, shatters on your threshold. The smell rises before you understand. Not wine, not oil, not. Even sour milk, urine, you gasp. Neighbors pretend not to see, but they do. Everyone does. It's a curse. And everyone knows it. She stands at the end of the alley. The old woman with a dead goat and too many teeth. Her son took ill last week. She blames your gaze, your good harvest, your voice that carries at market. Now she's returned the favor with liquid gold. You try to clean the stones. Ash, water, lemon peel, nothing works. The smell clings. The shame lingers. And that night, your daughter's fever spikes. She vomits. Your husband can't stand. The milk spoils. You visit the wise woman in the hills. Some call her a witch. Others say healer. She lives alone. Surrounded by jars and herbs, bones hung like bells from her porch. She listens without blinking. Her curse, she says, was not empty. You nod. She leans in. You want it broken? You say nothing. She hands you a small clay vessel, already warm in your hand. You'll need her piss. Your stomach turns, not yours, she says. Hers, if you want the spell to bite. The stream must return to the source. You wait by the stream for hours, behind brambles, under moonlight. The old woman comes at dawn, squatting behind the olive press. You hold your breath, count heartbeats, and slide the jar beneath her when she leaves. You don't feel victorious, just cold. The wise woman gives you instructions. Add vinegar, crush nettles, whisper 3 names into the liquid. Hers, yours, and that of a sleeping dog. Then pour it at the crossroad, beneath the waning moon. You follow the ritual exactly, not because you believe, but because belief no longer matters. You've seen too much. The next morning, she screams. They say her left eye is swollen shut, that she wanders in circles, muttering about shadows. Her goats refuse to follow her. Her son howls in his sleep. You feel no joy, only relief. But that night, your dreams are heavy. You see the jar again, but now it holds blood. It spills across your doorstep. It bubbles, boils, sings. Your daughter stirs beside you, breath shallow. Fever returns. You return to the wise woman. She shakes her head. A curse turned twice becomes a mirror. She says, now it chooses. You leave with no answers. You wonder, was this healing? Or revenge? Did you practice medicine? Or madness? Was the jar you buried a cure? Or a doorway? And as your daughter dreams of rivers, as the wind whispers your name, you ask, if a potion works only through belief, what have you just started to believe in? Exporting the Empire's secret, you stand on the dock at Tarako. Salt wind thick with tar and pine. Behind you, carts rattle across stone. Crates groan as they're stacked. Ahead, the harbor ripples with grain ships, timber barges. And one vessel you're destined for Britannia. Its cargo is not wine, not olives, not gold. It's urine. You double-check the manifest. Each crate is marked. Phylonica extract. A bureaucratic veil inside our amphory. tightly sealed in wax and straw. The jars are warm, fermented, carefully aged. You watch them be filled weeks ago in the fulling vats of Hispania's laundries. Slave boys stirred them by foot. Soaked tunics floated on top. The smell was unbearable. But the product? Essential. Rome's secret alchemy. Because whiteness isn't natural. Not on wool. Not on teeth. It's boiled, beaten, bled, then bottled and sent across the empire. Even to the barbarians, you lift the lid of a crate. The scent escapes in a wave sharp. Acidic, undeniable, the dock workers step back, one spits and curses in Celtiberian. You ignore him because you've seen the letters from Britannia, from Gaul, from kingdoms that swear Rome is bloated, dying. Decadent yet still send coin for its piss. Even the barbarian kings want Roman teeth. One crate is marked with a royal seal. For a chieftain who once beheaded a legionnaire, but now pays for Roman mouthwash. They say he refuses to speak before battle until he's rinsed with Vespasian's gold. They don't laugh when they say it. A boy brings the shipping documents. You sign without reading. You've done this 12 times. You're good at it, but today something's different. You look past the crates, past the ship, to the sea beyond. Clouds bruise the horizon. Gulls shriek and scatter. The harbor smells not of brine, but of rot. You remember what happened to the last vessel. Storm struck near Massilia. The ship went down. Days later, crates washed ashore in Etruria split open. The beach reeked for weeks. Locals said it was a curse. That Rome was bottling its sin and sending it west? They weren't wrong, because what is this trade, really? Not medicine, not magic. It's shame. Systematized, sanitized, exported. The provinces mock Roman baths, but pay for Roman urine. They rebel against Roman law, but demand Roman whiteness. They call your people perverse and still bathe in your stench, and you profit. The wind rises, a lash of sea spray hits your cheek. You taste salt, or is it something else? The captain shouts to board, you hesitate, your body aches, your mouth is dry. You smell parchment and ammonia, and suddenly, you wonder if the empire's greatest export is its waste. What part of you has already been sold? Soldiers in the latrine, you squat beside the others, steam rising in the cold. It's dawn on the northern frontier. Frost still clings to the grass. And the trench beneath your feet stinks of piss and mud. You're not embarrassed. No one. You've all shared worse. This is the latrina, dug behind the palisade. Bare earth, wooden rails, no privacy, but this is where stories are told. You laugh with the others, a joke about Gauls, another about a centurion's wife. Someone spits, someone farts, someone curses the cook, then a voice calls from behind. Phil. The jars, Medic's orders. You groan, everyone does, but it's no surprise. You take the clay vessel from the orderly, warm from his hands. Carefully you angle it into the trench, scooping the yellow froth like it's soup. You try not to breathe. You carry it to the medicus. He nods. For wounds. He mutters, fresh batch. You set it on the table beside strips of linen. Honey, vinegar, and bone saws. You've seen it used. A soldier took a blade to the thigh last week. Not deep, but filthy. The wound swelled, turned black at the edges. He screamed until they poured the urine over it. Warm, sharp, almost hissing on contact. The swelling went down. The rot stopped. He walked again. Since then, no one laughs when the medic says rinse. That night, you slice your own hand. A loose nail in the barracks. It's shallow but cold. The wind bites. Infection is fast out. Here, you do what you've seen done. You dip the cloth in yesterday's jar. Press it to the cut. It burns. You grit your teeth. But the next day, the swelling never comes. You start to believe. Then winter arrives. Hard. The snow eats rations faster than mouths. The wine freezes solid. Fingers blacken. Lips split. The medic runs out of everything. Except one thing. He starts fermenting the piss. Keeps it in sealed jugs near the fires. Lets it age. The smell gets worse. Stronger. Almost like vinegar now. He adds herbs, sometimes ash, and then he tells you to drink it. You gag, you refuse. So does everyone. But then the frostbite takes a Man's toes. Another cough's blood. One night, you can't feel your legs. You drink, it's sour, hot, alive. Your belly turns. But your toes begin to tingle. You don't know why. You don't ask. Because now it's not a joke, not a punishment, it's medicine. You survive that winter, barely, but when you return to Rome, leaner, colder, still whole, you walk past noblemen sipping spiced wine, laughing in marble baths, and you think about that trench, that jar, that night, and you wonder if survival means swallowing shame. What part of yourself never comes back out? The seamstress who made a discovery. Your wife smells like ammonia and roses. She works in the alley behind your flat, hunched over rough linen, hands stained with dye. You've offered to build her a roof, a shutter, even a bench. She refuses. The light is best at this angle, she says. And the breeze carries the worst of the stink. She's talking about urine. Not for washing, not for medicine, for color. You didn't believe it at first. But she showed you how stale urine, mixed with ground lichen or powdered roots, deepens the reds, fixes the blues, strengthens the blacks. It binds, she says, dipping a thread into the warm mixture. Without it, the dye runs with the first sweat. She learned it from an old Greek dyer in Trastevere, now it's hers. Every tunic in the district has passed through her fingers and through her jars. But that's not the discovery. That comes. One evening, after supper, she's fiddling with scraps, rags too small to sell, too stained to wear. She dabs one with leftover dye, blackened with soot, thickened with vinegar, the last dregs of a week-old piss jar. It smells like rot, she sighs. Too much lie. Then she picks up a reed, not to write, just to stir. But the reed snags on the fabric and black trails follow. She frowns, dips again, pulls the reed across a scrap of papyrus. The line is bold, solid, doesn't blur, doesn't fade. You both stare at it. Later, she tries it on a scroll edge, then a wax tablet, then bone. It sticks. Ink. She says real ink, not just for scribes, not chalk or coal or pigment dust. Something permanent, something true. She shows it to the copyist. Down the road, the man who transcribes edicts, rewrites contracts, sharpens his quills daily and curses the rain. He tests her mixture, writes a line from Cicero. He nods, then he pays her. Within a month, others come, scribes, even a senator's steward. They all want her ink. It smells, but it lasts. They don't ask where it came from. They don't care. And soon, scrolls are copied with it, histories, treatises, decrees, names of emperors, names of gods, years later. Long after the roof caves in and the alley floods and your bones are dust. Those scrolls will survive, found in urns and jars and ash, still legible, still black, still hers. But the irony lives in your memory, because the same empire that praises her invention that praises permanence is beginning to rot. You see it in the sewers, in the guards' teeth, in the temples, now half empty. And still they write, still they copy, still they preserve, as if ink can stop collapse, as if names can outlast decay, as if clarity, pulled from waste, means anything at all when the marble begins to crack. And you ask, if what survives is written in urine and ash, what story does it tell about us? When Christianity rose, the peapots cracked. You've stopped leaving the jar out. Once, it sat proudly by the hearth, a clay vessel half filled with stale rinse. You kept a sprig of mint tied to its handle. Your mother used it, your wife, even your children when their gums ached or fevers burned. It was medicine, it was tradition. Now, it hides beneath the floorboards. Because things are changing. You hear it in the streets. Pagan rot, they say. Unclean rituals, false cures. They spit when they pass the old baths. They throw stones at the foolers. The mosaics of Apollo and Venus are scraped away. The shrines go cold, and the Christian cross rises. They do not bathe together. They do not burn incense. They do not rinse with what comes from the body. They call it vile. They say the soul is made unclean by what passes through flesh. You tried to argue once, gently, in the marketplace. You spoke of Pliny, of Galen, of the old Foolers' Guild. A merchant's apprentice looked you in the eye and said, The gods you follow piss from there. Mouths. He said nothing. No, the urine jars crack in the alleys. Smashed by boys with crucifixes carved into their walking sticks. One was left on your doorstep. The stick, not the jar. A warning. You stop buying from the old perfumer. He still sells rinse, calls it vintage solution, whispers it under his breath. But the neighbors talk and your son is starting lessons with the bishop's clerk. Still, you use it. Not every day. Only when the pain returns. You rinse when no one sees. Late at night behind the curtain because no one else has your teeth. White smooth. Still strong enough to tear pork, to crack olive pits. You see their mouths, the new faithful, blackened, swollen, sunken. Their prayers are pure, but their gums rot faster than grapes in a cellar. They speak of eternal life. You chew with ease. You feel the pressure, not from God, but from the gaze, from whispers, from the silence when you pass. The bishop preaches about cleanliness of the soul. He never mentions the body. Never the pus, never the stink. You go home and spit blood into your rag. The jar calls from beneath the floor. You retrieve it, gently, carefully. The glaze is worn. The lid cracked. The liquid inside has turned darker. You swirl it. You remember your father's hand on your shoulder the first time he made you rinse. This is what makes a Romang, he said. But Romans are gone. Now there are only Christians and secrets and silence. You tilt the jar, you sip, and as the taste coats your tongue, you ask if salvation means sickness. What would you risk to keep your teeth in your head? The last drop. You're old now. The streets of Rome feel smaller. The marble's gone dull. The bathhouses are ruins. The tax collectors no longer come for your pots. The urine tax, once scribbled into every merchant's ledger, disappeared decades ago, dissolved like the empire itself. You can't remember the last time you saw someone rinse, but sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, you smell it, not fresh, not sharp. The memory of it, faint, bitter, still tucked behind your ribs like old bruises. The scent returns when your gums ache, when the wind stirs dust through the shutters. When you hear coughing down the alley and remember how quickly lungs can fill with blood you don't speak of. It most wouldn't understand. Your neighbors pray now. Not to Apollo, not to Asclepius, to saints with smooth hands and gentle deaths. They say healing comes from light, from virtue, from faith, not from waste. Not from what the body expels, but you remember the foolers. You remember your wife's rags soaked in yellow rinse and sun-dried on cords. You remember the long lines at the bathhouse? When a good jar cost a silver coin and came labeled by province. Hispania for polish, Africa for potency, Syria for smell. You remember the tax, and you remember surviving. It's a quiet morning when your granddaughter finds the jar. She's playing in the corner where the floorboards are loose. You hear her cry out. Then the sound of pottery rolling. You turn slowly, stiffly, and see her standing there, dust on her fingers, holding the last jar. It's small, cracked, the seal worn smooth. Inside, the liquid has turned nearly clear. What was this for? She asks. Her voice is soft, curious, unafraid. You open your mouth, close it again. What do you say? That it was medicine? That it was shame? That it was a piece of the empire's great illusion? This thing you were told would save you, cleanse you, fortify your breath, and whiten your bones? Do you tell her it worked? Do you tell her you're still here? You reach out, take the jar, feel its weight, and you remember the pain, the rot, the long nights when no one else had a cure, the screams in the bathhouse, the soldier with half a leg, the merchant who swore by goat piss aged in amphory. You remember choosing to believe in something, not because it was holy or beautiful or pure, but because it worked. Sometimes you set the jar on the table. She looks at you, waiting. You smile, slowly. It kept us alive, you say. She frowns, like soup. You laugh, not quite. She wrinkles her nose, shrugs, and returns to her game. And as the light shifts across the floor, glinting off that old, cloudy glass, you ask, if survival becomes unspeakable, what do the children inherit? Echoes in the modern mouth. You tilt your head, rinse, and spit. Mint burns your tongue. The sink shines. A plastic bottle cool, branded, clinically precise sits on the counter, promising confidence, freshness, whitening in 7 days. You watch. The blue swirl spiral down the drain. Then you pause because beneath the peppermint, you smell something else, faint, sharp, familiar. You turn the bottle over, scan the ingredients. Ethanol, menthol, benzoic acid, methyl salicylate, flavor. And there it is, ammonium compound. Your fingers tighten around the plastic. Ammonia. The same compound that lifted stains from tunics in the Roman Phalanca. The same that bleached soldiers' teeth. The same that burned wounds clean behind the frontier wall. You're centuries away from the alley vats. The steam of the thermi, the medic pressing urine-soaked linen to a burn, but the chemistry never left. Only the context changed. Now, it's refined, filtered. But at its core, you're still rinsing with echoes of what Rome called medicine. The science was always there. You think of Vespasian, the emperor who taxed public urinals, who chuckled when his son wrinkled his nose at the idea of taxing waste. He held a coin to his face and said, "Money doesn't stink." And it didn't, but the history does. You sit on the toilet, surrounded by tile and chrome, watching the LED glow on your electric toothbrush. You scroll past headlines, ancient cures rediscovered, traditional remedies rebranded. Nature meets science, one says, rooted in the past. You wonder if anyone remembers what that past actually looked like. The foolers stirring mats with their feet. The healers pouring hot urine on open wounds. The mothers pressing knives beneath pillows, while their children slept beside jars of fermenting rinse. You wonder how many scrolls were written ink, mixed from soot and piss. How many deaths were delayed, how many lives were saved by desperation, masked as belief. How much of modern hygiene is built on forgotten. Your tongue along your teeth, they're white, strong, clean. You've never soaked a tunic in waste, never feared wolves at the window, never killed a man over a bed or drank from a jar that steamed in the corner of a latrine. But you've inherited something all the same. Not just the methods, the instinct, to rinse, to scrub. To fear the rot and fight it with whatever works, even if you don't understand why. That instinct lives in your medicine cabinet. It whispers in every sterile label, every disposable swab. Every antiseptic ritual that promises purity, it lives. In the spaces between shame and survival, and as the peppermint fades, as the water runs clear. You ask, if our smiles are born from ancient filth, what else have we cleaned without ever really washing it away?